18-1. So here it is again. This is this great team that just got caught on a bad day. But I'm saying all that to say
that's the David Tyree catch,
right? I'm saying all this to say that this Broncos team, for me personally, I would have loved to have seen the Steelers in the Super Bowl this year with at full strength with that offense, with Le'Veon Bell in the picture. So I say that to say, here's a team that Le'Veon was not on the field in the game where they beat the Steelers. They only won that by 6 or 7, and then they did a great job against the the Broncos defense did a great job against a beat up Patriots team. And I just think here it is with the fully healthy Carolina team. It's probably going to be a little too much. You're right, probably 24 to 28 points from Carolina, and we just don't know what we can get. The one thing that's really caught my eyes is the disconnect between Demaryius Thomas and Peyton Manning.
He can't get it to him. Demaryius is a deep threat guy. But
even so, with that said, has he just tuned out on the intermediate and the short range passes? Because he just let them bounce off his hands, and he doesn't really seem to be bent out of shape.
I think a lot of that comes down to Gary Kubiak's offense and what he really wants to do. Like when Peyton was out
with Brock,
when they had Osweiler in there, you saw flashes of Demaryius. You saw him get down and beat his guys and go 30, 40 yards.
Right.
Kubiak wants Peyton to not improvise as much.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do a lot of pistol stuff, and it worked. It's like they met in the middle somewhere, because the beginning of the season it wasn't working. And so those last couple games that Peyton came in and through these playoffs, they seem to, and I think to Peyton's credit, he realizes he's not the same quarterback. Like he's even said that a lot of the credit needs to go to their defense.
Right.
So I think Demaryius Thomas is definitely a top 10 wide receiver.
Definitely.
And so even though his numbers may not show it this year, I don't think it's his fault.
Right. That's just one thing that concerns me. Like I said, is when I see his body language, he doesn't seem to be excited about playing with Peyton. All of the audibling or the audibles into the right plays and the directing the game. He seems like, man, miss me with that. Like you said, get me the ball 30, 40 yards down the field and let me make a play. And it just doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like the sheriff's best deputy or something, But you just mentioned you just mentioned something I really hadn't considered, but it kind of ties into my next point. One thing I'll say is this: the Panthers, I'm wondering if they can jump on teams early the way that they have in the divisional and the championship, the NFC championship game, when teams came into Carolina and just fell apart in the first 5-10 minutes of the game, and they were able to have these huge leads, and then basically made these other teams one-dimensional. Does that not happen at Levi's Stadium? And then secondly, if we're 5 minutes into it and the game is totally decided the way that when Peyton faced the Seattle Seahawks a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, does Brock Osweiler get the call?
If it's a blowout early, they toss him in there. Yeah. It's a good question.
Because you remember Peyton at MetLife Field a couple of years ago. I was sitting there with my plate of food and my beer, and make note real quick, I have moved on to Lagunitas's undercover
shutdown
investigation shutdown. And, I like this one too. But I was sitting there at that game. It was a lot of time left to kill when the Super Bowl was in New York City, and it was, you could hear crickets that night. So if Brock enters this game, man, it could set things up, interesting.
See, and to me, they got so lucky. Like, the front office got so lucky with the way this whole thing broke down. Like, Peyton tore his plantar fascia.
Right.
Tore it. All right, look, and as a guy that's had plantar fasciitis, I know, like, I can only imagine how bad a tear is. Like, it's a really common basketball injury, but just like standing on your feet for more than 4 or 5 hours is painful, let alone running and walking. And so to tear it, he did. I'm sure he did have to sit for a while. And so for them to be able to utilize Osweiler and put him in there and see what he can do, and then have him kind of level out and look like, okay, he's an average guy. He needs some time to develop. And then to have Peyton come in and win that game, no more question. Now it's not who's going to be our quarterback. It's, well, let's go ahead and ride this. Let's go ahead and put him back in there, because how would that look if, particularly now that they're going to the Super Bowl, if you got Peyton Manning riding the bench? Like, that's tough. It's a tough spot to be in.
I don't want to dig into some older episodes, but ending my previous podcast and coming into this one, my discussion was that they needed to find a way to rest Peyton Manning for 4 to 5 games. And like you said, it was interesting how that actually did occur through some different chain of events. And it was, because the NFL is not a league. You don't have Popovich sitting a player,
right,
on a Sunday guys, because we're X amount of games up or whatever. If you can play in the NFL, you play. So that's why I hope it's a competitive game, because like you said, if we and that's a tough spot for Kubiak and Elway to be in if they really got to pull Peyton because it gets out of hand. One note I'll say is I just heard, I did not research it and confirm it, but I heard that the Broncos are the host team, the home team, and that they decided to not wear the colors that they lost the Super Bowl in for, I believe it was Elway's last year. Like, whatever uniforms, I think the road or home uniform, Elway, I think it came down from him, from what I've heard, came down and said, we're not going to wear those uniforms, because being in a similar situation where this could be Peyton's last game and that was Elway's last game, he was like, I don't want you to be in the same uniform that I was in. And I just thought that was kind of odd, because if the team is concerned about little details like that,
they already lost.
Yeah, so that was interesting to me. Hey, really quickly, we're a little over halfway through the show, so I want to move on. Both of us believe the Panthers will prevail in Super Bowl 50. We'll see what happens. I don't know if you caught Cam's airplane attire today, but he had on some zebra print pants with some gold something.
I heard about it. I didn't actually look at it.
Yeah, it was
very Russell Westbrook.
That was the text or the meme from somebody, or ESPN had the picture and said, Westbrook, it's your move. What's up for our beer topics, man? We got about 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes to run through beer.
The biggest thing that's going on locally here, we've got every year the Ohio Craft Beer Brewers Association does a conference that is generally somewhere far away from Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati. They did one in Zanesville, I believe was last year. But it is in the Gem City this year. It is February 3rd and 4th. Sadly, if you have not purchased tickets, you may not. It is sold out. Even the organizers did not know that was something that could actually happen.
Let me jump in real quick. Wasn't there a Dayton beer education event that happened this weekend that was sold out? One of my Facebook friends.
Yeah, it's the precursor to the conference.
Okay.
Yeah. But the conference is the 3rd and the 4th. Keynote speaker Jim Koch will be here, of Sam Adams / Boston Beer Company fame.
The guy from the commercials.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like the grandfather of craft beer at this point.
We've mentioned that before.
Yeah. There'll be, and then everybody local, all of our guys here, Hairless, Dayton Beer Company, Warp Wing, Yellow Springs, Toxic, Lot 27, Eudora. Is that everybody? If I miss somebody, forgive me. They'll all have some kind of a...
What about the Nowhere guy?
Nowhere in particular. They'll probably be... I'm sure they'll be doing something.
Right.
But even if you can't get into the conferences and the speaking points, just be downtown those 2 days, because everything is over by 4:30 and 5 o'clock. And so that group of people is not just going to disperse and go home.
Any areas you think this crowd could pop up at?
I think that,
I mean, the different microbreweries downtown.
Fifth Street Brewery is the one I left out. But I think the Oregon District as a whole is going to be packed.
Have a big influx
those 2 nights. And it'll just like if anybody is trying to like rub elbows or just have good conversation, you will be able to do it. Like I have to work and could not get out for those 2 days. But my 2 partners, Jared and Mike, they will be attending all the festivities, and then I'll catch up with everybody afterwards.
This is the 3rd and 4th of Feb. This upcoming week, right?
Correct.
Okay. What's the name of that again? The Ohio
Craft Brewers Association.
Craft Brewers Association. That's interesting. I just wanted to make note, man. Like I told you, I texted you the other night. I actually made it out to the Dayton Beer Company. I didn't know that place was there, and I was driving on like a street that I don't normally drive on, and I saw it, and I saw a lot of cars out there, and then I circled around and saw, big screens and flat screens in there. I would suggest for Daytonians that, have an affinity for craft beer, check them out. I like the layout in there. I like the environment. The bartender was very knowledgeable and helpful. He made some suggestions, although I wasn't, it wasn't really my first rodeo. Like I didn't bust out my hoops and hops card like I'm about this life, bruh. But he had some suggestions because I had never had any Dayton Beer Company brews. But then they also have selections from other breweries. So
yeah, and I'd say that, to me, is one of the best reasons to go there. It is a great location. That's their second site. That's
right. Correct.
The offsite there.
Exactly.
That's the we made it, Mama. We made it location.
Right.
But they, aside from, they generally have at least 20 to 25 of their own brews on,
right,
and then another 15 to 20 from other breweries, and so you get a plethora of craft beer at your disposal. Right.
Since I was there, I actually had some of theirs. I just know it as the number 17. It was a double IPA. Respectable, good beer. I didn't have anything wrong with it. Like I said, the environment, nice, diverse crowd. The one setback, maybe for anybody that hasn't been there, consider getting you some food if you want to eat. You can. I think the bartender told me you can carry some food in.
Right.
I think you can order pizzas from wherever that can be delivered in there. They don't have a concern about that. And then there's also a food truck on site. It's kind of a very limited. It's a limited menu in terms of if you're a burger, if you like burgers with your beers. It's a lot of comfort food, I guess.
That particular night. So, like, we kind of touched on that pre-show, and I just waited. You're going to run into that often when you go to breweries, because as somebody who is in planning of opening a brewery, we will not be serving food.
Okay.
Food is often how you get shut down.
Exactly. Because of the health codes and whatnot.
And so,
that appealed to me. That little detail right there appealed to me. Like, we got a food truck.